Hello there everybody, WhatCulture Wrestling's Adam Cleary here. This is a Michael Sidgwick jam and just... sit down. This Saturday night just gone at AEW Full Gear, Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley clashed in a match that went 38 minutes, 50 seconds and became the single biggest talking point in wrestling that week and probably this week as well. It drew virtually every single adjective from a split fan base, which has in itself become as compelling viewing as the match itself, and half of which seems to develop this moral compass, which is new for professional wrestling. Just going to take it back to before the match actually started, right? Because Moxley, in the build-up to this, promised a level of beautiful pro wrestling violence not seen in this country in decades. And around the same time, you remember, he did that interview with It's Still Real to Us, where he said he was lying to all his WWE fans. I'd have to say stuff like, I'm going to eviscerate your skull at Hell in a Cell. But it's like, no, I'm not. I know I'm not. I know there's not going to be any blood. I'm lying to the fans. Well, on Saturday night, John, you were not lying to anybody. That Full Gear match was an electric, ghastly, hyper-violent war, the likes of which arguably did not require the in-decades qualifier. Dave Meltzer, speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, claimed that the match went as far as Big Japan Pro Wrestling's trademark violence porn and 5 times further than the Combat Zone wrestling promotion in which Moxley made his name. Hang on a second there, Adam. I've heard of CZW, obviously, but what is this? What's this Big Japan Pro Wrestling you speak of? What the hell is that? That one's new to me. Yes, of course, sorry, my mistake. It's this.
Yeah. Have you seen the Lana thing from Raw?
Brian Alvarez then echoed those sentiments by saying it wasn't his cup of tea. Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful said it wasn't for him. Michael Hamflett was just sat in this office doing this. And then Dave Meltzer said that what he thought they should have done is wrestled the match as a fight and not as a spectacle. But the thing is that consistent with Kenny Omega's character? No. But what do I mean by that? What do I mean it should have always been a spectacle and not a fight despite how it might have looked? Well, the thing is, right, Kenny Omega is an artist in this industry. Jon Moxley himself said as much. He called him the Rembrandt of professional wrestling. And this match, this lights-out fight, was this... it was his excessive, grandiose vision of what this kind of match should be. Kenny Omega is the man who can do anything, any match, any time, any place, anywhere, any opponent, and he can do it the best it has ever been done. This is his mantra, this is what his character is. So he can do the best type of match ever, even if the type of match we're talking about is a garbage match. And that is what much of the criticism of this match actually stemmed from. That both of these men are too talented to be lowering themselves to this kind of danger, to this kind of violence. They're too good at wrestling to be doing this sort of thing. But again, are they? Think about Kenny Omega's philosophical war with Tanahashi this year at Wrestle Kingdom. The whole theme of that program was driven by the reality of this match. Tanahashi was this in-ring purist, and Omega had come into New Japan and poisoned their style with his recklessness. Hence why he did that back bump onto the table, where he clips his head off it instead of dropping him back first, then just turns around and goes, oops, sorry. This character of Kenny Omega thrives on danger as a strategy, as a legit way to beat your opponents in a pro wrestling match. And what this match was him discovering this new level of danger, of relishing it in an attempt to beat Jon Moxley. The biggest moment of the whole match is where he gets his elite pals to bring out a massive barbed wire atrocity that was somehow also still in character. He is pro wrestling's artist, and this spiderweb was his sculpture of pain. And this was his whole strategy for the finish. He attempted to blast Moxley through that with the one-winged angel. Again, this was not quite excess for the sake of it. It was gruesome pro wrestling theatre, but it still had purpose. Moxley, meanwhile, let's not forget, spent years in a WWE system that shackled his own pro wrestling vision. He is a private, intense individual with an inherent willingness to use the ring as an outlet for his hard, troubled life. This mentality, fused with years of this unfulfilled bloodlust, erupted in Baltimore in a way the build to the match told us it would exactly. Look, right, this video isn't me saying that match was great and anybody who didn't like it was wrong, because if I'm being completely truthful with you, there are some parts of it that even I am still on the fence about, but it's the people saying that it didn't make sense for this match to go down the way it did. I'm saying that is wrong. In its own deranged context, it made perfect sense, and it is that context we should be talking about. Jerry Jarrett, one of pro wrestling's most revered and influential promoters, always had this system, right? If you can just get the fans to buy into story beat A, then it doesn't really matter what's in B or C, how improbable it gets, they will be more receptive to it. And that is exactly what Moxley and Omega tried to do in this match. After that explosive athletic opening, then they started to move into the story beats and they shredded each other's back with barbed wire, and it looked absolutely gruesome because it was. The hard way blood drawn through spiked metal created this awful gut feeling, but only a superficial effect on the body. The glass they then introduced was, we think, worked, and while it didn't let anywhere near as much blood as it should have, the mere fact that blood had already been let gave us this sickening atmosphere. So you see, story beat A then informs the gruesome power of story beats B and C, but they get their power not from the actual implementation of stuff, but from this expert delivery of the suspense. Like in all the best death matches, the spots themselves are not sold by their execution, but by the sheer desperation to avoid them. And see, the thing is, pretty much every single bump in this match was reasonably safe. Like, they were all done onto the back. Like that sky-high powerbomb onto Moxley's back, the Terminator drive onto Moxley's back. No matter what they were landing on, glass, chains, whatever, they were all back bumps. So for a match that was so palpably traumatic, the idea of head trauma only really came into it in the very final stretch. Jon Moxley destroyed the ring to reveal the unforgiving boards beneath, and even for the most barbaric of pro wrestling fans, what followed was difficult to watch. Omega's last bump for the paradigm shift was absolutely horrible, but, and this is an argument, not a justification of it, it was the finish. Now, none of this serves to undermine the real genuine pain both men will have endured in this match and the real genuine danger they will have put themselves in, but there was a worked artistry to what they're doing. So by all means, you can hate this match, but just try and hate it for what it is. I mean, take New Japan, for example. There are far more dangerous matches than this, far more regularly than we're getting them in AEW. Like, Naito invites this just horrible, sickening reaction every time he takes these dangerous neck bumps. Tomohiro Ishii is like near a concussion pretty much every single time he has a singles match. And the New Japan schedule is far more punishing than they've got in AEW. But the bottom line is, Moxley and Omega are able to work this kind of match relatively safely because, well, it doesn't matter how much it hurts in the morning if you've got the day off. That's at least something. Like, realistically, with the AEW schedule, this kind of thing could only happen, what, max 4 times per year, if that? And the thing is, right, some people have called this match dangerous, and I mean, like, what do you want me to say? Wrestling is dangerous, inherently and unavoidably. Like, for all this talk of treating it like a real sport, can you imagine if we did? Like, if there was actual legislation like they have in real sport, every single wrestler would be required to wear protective headgear. And I don't know, maybe, hopefully, one day it will be. Like, not the headgear. I don't want someone walking down the ramp at WrestleMania 45 looking like Petr Cech or something. I just mean like the legislation, so it's always safe no matter what promotion I'm getting off topic here. What I'm trying to say is, at Full Gear, Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley put on a spectacle of wrestling violence, and it was just about enough of a spectacle. That sickening spider's web bump was at least a back bump, and as has been posited by a number of journalists, the barbed wire itself might even have been worked. The genuine power of story beat A, which was the barbed wire bat across the back, allowed us to buy into the spectacle of story beat B, which was the smashing glass, which allowed us to fully buy into the insanity that was story beat C, the spider's web mesh thing of horror and pain and death. Now, we don't know how much of that, if any of it, was gimmicked, but well, if the pair of them turn up on Dynamite this Wednesday with backs that look like Ordnance Survey maps, you'll have your answer. And if nothing else, for all people are saying AEW created this storm of controversy at the weekend, it's actually been so much more than that. Like, Jon Moxley looks like the most badass wrestler on the planet, and that lights out gimmick, for all it looked like really goofy and stupid, now genuinely feels like a feud ender. And the thing is, the tone of this match, the level of violence in this match has now been, I mean, you can't put that genie back into the bottle. Jon Moxley now gets to go forward with that victory tucked in his back pocket, knowing in all future feuds he can bring it out again if he wants. And given the vast majority of the audience don't want to see that, that's a powerful storytelling tool. And what that means is that at Full Gear, Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega didn't put on some glorified CZW match. They created a mythology of violence within AEW. Now, yes, parts of it might have been too dangerous. We don't know yet, but it was still a scintillating and in-character masterclass from both men. But that's our take on the whole situation. We're far more interested in yours, so let us know what you made of it in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. I've, of course, been Adam Cleary. This was a Michael Sidgwick jam, and I guess we'll both see you soon. Goodbye.